Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome back to another Warframe video, where today we are going to take a look at the economy in Warframe, specifically the Platinum economy, Platinum being the premium currency in game, and by that I mean you can buy this currency with real world money and then trade Platinum in game with other players to get various items, or you can just purchase items straight from the marketplace. So we're going to be having a look at 3 specific ways that you can farm Platinum during this video. You can mix and match these methods however you want, and I'll obviously go into detail on my favourite, which if you haven't been watching my Warframe Done Efficiently playthrough, you won't know that it is farming Arcanes through Eidolons, but we'll be looking at that separately, as I said, during this video. So without further ado, let's jump into these 3 methods, and then afterwards we'll take a look at some tips and tricks and various tools that you can use to improve the speed at which you can farm Platinum and the efficiency you can farm it at. So let's dive into it. So the first method of farming Platinum is through relics. Now relics can be attained from various missions in Warframe, and if you've played the game for a while, you'll likely have gathered quite a few together just passively. If you're just starting out and perhaps want to obtain some relics quickly, there are plenty of guides out there on how to farm each specific relic tier within Warframe, so I'm not going to go into detail on that in this video, but what I will say is that this needs to be factored into the time it takes to gain Platinum using this method. Using relics to farm Platinum is something that can be done basically as soon as you start playing, making it a very accessible source of Platinum. You can make it far more lucrative if you're able to play on public or in a private squad, as you can have access to 4 drops which you can choose from rather than 1 every time you open a relic, thus adding to your chances of getting a more valuable reward. You can also refine relics in order to increase your chances of getting a more valuable reward, with gold drops generally being more valuable than silver or bronze. I would advise looking for mission types such as Exterminate, Capture, Rescue, or even Sabotage to open these relics on, as the drop rates for Reactant, which you need to open them, are far higher than in endless mission types, and you can typically open far more in a given time just repeating an Exterminate Void Fissure, for example. To give an idea of the amount of Platinum you can expect to receive from only farming relics for Platinum, I would estimate a return of between 60 and 100 Platinum an hour depending on your RNG. Bear in mind this figure can change quite drastically if you were to pick up a vaulted gold item, as these can sometimes go for at least 50 to 100 Platinum each depending on the rarity. It's also worth noting that you can make your prime parts go further by accumulating sets and selling these off rather than the individual parts, as usually collecting an entire set comes with a premium, that being the luxury of being able to buy all the parts of a set in one trade. Farming relics for Platinum is a fairly safe and consistent way to accumulate Warframe's premium currency, and is therefore the go-to for most players, particularly those just starting out in Warframe. Now whilst this is a brief overview of relic Platinum farming, and there is more to say about it, we're going to move on to the second method of farming Platinum, which is Rivens. Rivens are perhaps considered the most risky method of farming Platinum in Warframe. There are so many weapons in the game that obtaining a more sought after Riven through sorties or the Red Veil rewards in Iron Wake on Earth make this by far the least consistent way to farm Platinum, but perhaps the most rewarding if you get lucky. Even after you've got a Riven for a gun you want, you need to have a good roll to be able to sell it for a decent amount of Platinum. Of course, there are weapons in the game such as the Glaive, whose Rivens, even unrolled or trash, will sell for upwards of 300 or 400 Platinum, but even then, there are now over 450 different weapons in Warframe, so the chances of landing on one of these high ticket items is very slim. But there are ways to make Platinum from Rivens without having to rely on unveiling your own. Buying trash Rivens from other players or unrolled Rivens and then rolling them yourself is probably the safest way to earn Platinum from Riven mods. This does however come with the caveat that you need the Platinum in the first place to buy them, and if you want them for the really high tier weapons, you'll need to invest a decent amount of Platinum before you even start. What's more is that even when you've done this, you're not guaranteed to get a godly Riven roll, even if you've rolled it hundreds of times, so it's still a risky investment, and I can certainly attest to that because I've rolled a Riven 1,000 times myself. If you've seen my Vectis Riven series, go and have a look at that. We never actually get the godly Riven roll that we want. We get close, but it's not that great. So the temptation is certainly there. And godly Rivens for weapons like the Zenith, for example, have gone for over 100,000 Platinum if the stats are S tier. So you can really bring in some serious dollar if you get a good roll. but it is important to understand that gaining platinum from Rivens does come down to RNG at the end of the day, as opposed to relics, where if you farm for a set amount of time, you will get some platinum, even if you trade parts in for ducats and then trade with Barrow and use his items to get platinum. I would therefore advise that if this is a method of farming that you are interested in, you should wait until at least sort of MR16 or later to begin farming platinum using this method, as not only is it really risky, but you also need to spend a lot of time farming the Kuva to re-roll the Rivens, which you could be spending doing more interesting and fun things. So let's move on to our third and final method of farming platinum, Arcanes. Arcanes are my go-to method for farming platinum in Warframe. Max rank Arcanes can sell for a decent amount and only require a single trade, meaning you can get more out of your daily limit. The best Arcanes to farm for platinum are those that drop from Eidolons in the Plains of Eidolon. This does bring me on to my first note about this method, which is that these Arcanes can only be farmed during a night cycle on the Plains, which occur once every 2 hours and 20 minutes. An experienced hunter, however, can comfortably take down 6 Hydralisks in one 50-minute night cycle by themselves, leading to a total arcane haul of 18 at the end of the 50 minutes. Once again, you aren't guaranteed to get the best arcanes every time, and some, like Arcane Energize, definitely sell for more than others. The price of arcanes can also vary when an event lands, and you can find them for sale as part of it, but you can often gauge when this is going to happen and hold on to your arcanes accordingly. At the time of recording, a max rank Arcane Energize sells for above 2,000 platinum, but in the past they have sold for more than 3,000. Now this might all sound wonderful, but it's important to remember that legendary arcanes, such as Energize, only have a 5% chance of dropping from a Hydralist. This means that realistically, you'd receive about 1 every 3 night cycles. Of course, this can vary depending on your RNG. I myself once gained 4 in one night, but that was a one-off. Whilst you may not receive an Energize, you will receive other arcanes that still sell for a decent amount. Arcane Fury, for example, at max rank sells for around 400 platinum at the time of recording. Arcane Acceleration, a silver, sells for 150 platinum, and Arcane Guardian sells for 200 platinum. It's important to understand that after a while of farming Eidolons, you will have an almost continuous conveyor belt of arcanes being maxed out, which can then be sold. And whilst some only sell for 20 platinum, you will often max out one for at least 70 or 80 platinum every night. When you combine that with the chance of getting a legendary arcane like Grace or Energize, you end up with a platinum income of around 130 to 150 platinum per night, at least from my experience. Now bear in mind that that is for 50 minutes you get that, which is basically guaranteed. So the obvious drawback to this method though is, as we just said, that you can only farm these during a night cycle. So if you are hardcore farming platinum for like a day or whatever, then I would advise interweaving some relic or Riven farming in between night cycles. From my experience though, I found that only farming Eidolons for platinum allows for a well-paced income, meaning you can focus on other elements of the game between nights and not have to worry about your platinum coming in. It's also worth noting that you will need a decent setup to begin farming arcanes. If you haven't seen my Eidolon hunting guide for 2022, I will leave a link to it down in the description. And if you are interested to know at what point you can start capturing 6 Hydralisks in one night, then go and have a look through my Warframe Done Efficiently playthrough. But that pretty much covers all of it. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to have a quick chat about some tips and tricks and various tools that you can use to improve your efficiency when farming platinum. So in Warframe, we have a trade chat. This is basically where you can post advertisements about what you have for sale and you can put up how much platinum you want for it. Now, this is all well and good, but at the end of the day, you can only post a message in this chat once every 2 minutes, which, you know, it might not sound like a great deal of time, but when it actually comes to just sitting here and waiting, it does add up. And there are ways that you can overcome this, and there are websites that you can use to post your sales, and then people can message you in game if they spot something that they want and easily search for the item that they need and message you accordingly. So we're going to have a look at the one that I like to use, which is Warframe Marketplace. And obviously, I'm just going to put it out there as a disclaimer. I do not advocate like using any of these. You're more than welcome not to use them or use other sites. This is just the one that I have always used, and I'm not at all being, I'm not trying to promote this. It's just something that I use, and I'm advising you guys that you could perhaps save time using it. There are also various other tools that you can use, such as Warframe Info, which I certainly don't advise using, as it is a third-party software that causes an overlay on the game. This can be used when farming relics, as when you receive a relic drop, Warframe Info can tell you how much that item is worth, which item you can go for is worth the most currently. But again, like I said, that's a third-party software tool that does create an overlay. And, you know, although the developers don't specifically say not to use these tools, it is down to their discretion as to whether or not they ban you for using them, and they will have cause to ban you, and there will be no recourse for you being banned, because at the end of the day, it is a third-party software, and it's down to their discretion whether or not they think it is legal or not. So let's take a quick look at Warframe Marketplace and see how it all works and how it can benefit people trading platinum. Okay guys, so welcome to Warframe Marketplace. This is my go-to website for trading in Warframe. What this essentially does is that it puts all of your trades up on their website, and then a player can copy your name, put it into the in-game chat, message you in-game with the item that they want, and then you can just conduct the trade as you would usually at your clan's trading post. But the key thing to note here is that whilst, you know, you may be able to get a better deal in the Warframe trade chat, this is going to save you so much time that, you know, the time it would take you to shift an item just using the trade chat, you could have made, you know, double the platinum in the same time just by posting it on here. So if we just take a look, I'll go onto my profile. You guys can see I've only got Arcanes on this one. This is my Warframe Done Efficiently playthrough, and we're just selling Arcanes. We've got one Energize unranked for 100 platinum, an Arcane Acceleration for 150. So these kind of just come through naturally, and I'll just add to them every time I do a night cycle. And that way, I don't have to worry about using the trade chat or asking to sell stuff. It just comes through whenever someone specifically looks for one of these Arcanes that they want. They'll then message me and say, I want to buy it for that amount of platinum. I know some people frown upon this, and if you are one of those people, I can only apologize. But I really have found that, you know, using these tools is a great advantage to players, particularly when you're just starting out and you want to be focusing on progressing in the game and not just sitting around in the trade chat waiting for someone to message you or waiting for someone else's item to come up. So, for example, you know, if you want to purchase an Arcane Guardian, you can search for it, and then you can just instantly message the person selling it for the cheapest. This also encourages competitive selling as well, which is great. It lowers the prices for everyone else, and although, you know, when you're farming platinum, you want good prices for items, at the same time, you also want to be able to buy items for a good amount of platinum. And I am just going to blur the left-hand side of my screen here because there are advertisements, and I don't want those to be seen in the video because, you know, there's definitely a chance that I would get demonetized for that. So yeah, let's pop back into our orbiter, and then we'll conclude the video. Okay guys, so hopefully now you have a better understanding of at least how I like to farm my platinum in the game and what I think about the various methods that there are and tools that you can use. Obviously, I'd love to see some of you guys employing this yourself, but at the same time, do go ahead and leave any suggestions you might have down in the comments, any of your thoughts, ideas, what you guys like to do to farm platinum. I'd be very happy to read through those. Any constructive criticisms as well down in the chat, also happy to read through. I'm not going to take any bullying about the third-party tools though, so bear that in mind. But yeah, what I also want to do as well, just to make this a bit more interesting, if we can get a decent amount of likes on this video, maybe sort of, you know, let's say 75, then what I'll do is I will go ahead and we'll see how much platinum we can make from a single Riven trade. So we'll buy a high tier Riven, we'll start re-rolling it, we'll see if we can get it to a decent spot, and maybe bring in some big platinum from it for a video in the future. But yeah, otherwise, if you guys did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. I'll see you later, guys.